Hello and welcome back to another movie review. As always, I'm Kelly, and I just got out of Vanguard. Yeah, I'm only wearing this thing for the thumbnail in the very beginning there because it's getting hot fast. Now, this is the newest Jackie Chan film where he has teamed up once again with an old director he used to work with who did like Rumble in the Bronx and a few of the other Chinese productions from way back in the day with older Jackie Chan films. And if you think this is going to be a lot like those older Jackie Chan films, you're half right, because it feels a lot more like a modernization, both in the context of, yeah, it's newer, it's better affected, and in some ways better acted, but at the same time, it does feel like they're trying to bring in the new people to usurp the old ones. Now, that's not to say that this movie is bad, or that any of these new people couldn't have a very, very prosperous career. I'm just saying that there is a bit of a feeling with this movie that Jackie Chan's trying to give his thumbs up for all these new guys that you need to go watch instead, if you get my drift. And while that feeling is kind of inescapable, there are things legitimately to like about this film. There's a lot of really good action, and a lot of the times they go out of their way to do more kung fu than they do gunplay. Like, there's a lot of times where they will specifically strip the guns out of people just so you can get a couple of hand-to-hand fights. And that is much more appreciated because, again, they do shoot this action very well, and it is very well choreographed. And if I had a preference, I would always take kung fuing someone to death over just shooting them to death. Also, a spectacle action movie like this does require spectacle, and they do actually achieve that in several instances, where they have jet skis roam around in this river fight on rapids and things, where Jackie Chan actually apparently almost died during the filming of this. 70 years old and he's still acting like a badass. God, please don't ever die, Jackie Chan. But unfortunately, even in the terms of just a spectacle action movie where you're just supposed to turn your brain off and things, I feel I've seen this done better, and there's no denying that there is a griminess to this film, both in that they're trying to promote these new guys while sidelining old ones, while also, well, I should probably save that for more of the spoiler section. Regardless to say, I would like to give this a lot better rating than I could, based on the things it does do good, but overall, I'm not too hot on this one. And unfortunately, to talk about that further, we're going to have to actually dive into the spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers and just want to jump to the ending with a rating and overall review of it, here's the time code now. For those who want to stay, spoilers be ahoy. Now, starting off with the good, as always, Jackie Chan brings his A game. Regardless of what Jackie Chan is in, he is bringing his A game, and you can tell that he is just having a fucking blast. He just loves being in movies. And even in this one where, yeah, he's not doing as much, he is still giving it his all, committing to every single scene. Whether he has to say something stupid, intelligent, or he's just got to do something like get ready to jump off a goddamn bridge where everyone's like, no, why are you doing that, dude? The stairs, they're right over there. Let's go. You can just feel the energy and charisma that he brings to this, and it's so refreshing. But going on to some of the newer casts, I actually really like the two leads who, I'm going to try to pronounce your names. Bear with me, it's probably going to butcher them, just saying. The two leads were played by Lee Zenhun-yo and Jackson Lau. Okay, that second one's a lot easier to pronounce. These two are the essential dynamic duo of this movie. The movie starts with them, they're the main guys on this team. You know, one of them has a faked out death sequence at one point. And I will say that both of them as a team, just their rapport back and forth, one the stern, serious action guy, the other a bit more lighthearted but still able to kick 10 kinds of ass action guy. They've got good back and forth. Their distinct fighting styles, especially when they're doing stuff with each other, really do blend very, very well and makes for some entertaining action sequences, if nothing else. And the other thing that I can think of that this movie does very, very well is it's just general locale hopping. It seemed like it wanted to go out of its way to really utilize the different places it went to, whether it was London, Africa, Dubai, or some place in the Middle East whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. They treated every single one of these locations much like one of their grand set pieces, to give everything that happens here its own unique flavor, its own taste, just to really, really emphasize how they're utilizing the train. For example, when they infiltrate this Middle Eastern country to execute a rescue, you see this team sneaking into the town, going to the various angles of it, actually committing sabotage in some areas, setting the field before they come in with their big, Expendables action scenes where they come in and just wreck shit. And it helps me believe a lot more that this is this big, Expendables action team that can go across the world and do all these different operations and have a big high success rate, because you show them doing all the prep work required for that. And I will say, if nothing else, that was something you don't get to see in movies very often, and it was refreshing. However, there is no real way of dancing around it, and we've got to talk about the bad. The first thing you're going to notice in this movie is the god-awful effects inside of it, and I do mean god-awful. There is so much CGI on shit that does not need it. It is genuinely shocking. I mentioned before that they had this big water sequence with jet skis going around in this river of rapids and things, and they did film that in an actual river, but there's so much CGI just decorated around everything that it looked like it was filmed on a soundstage. But that thing has nothing on the CGI lion that was in the movie 20 minutes before that. Oh my god, this thing is ugly. Just for comparison, if I can find these pictures, this is what the CGI lion looks like in this movie. And this is what it looked like inside of Lion King. It's really sad to say when the Lion King from last year looks so much better and believable than this piece of shit. And oh my god, I have to give praise to the Lion King. Why did I do that? I mean, oh my god, there are car chase sequences inside of this. And from the blooper reel, showing making of they had at the end of the credits of the film, I can tell that they clearly at least filmed part of these chases just, with cars that are gold wrappered so they can have some good shots. But there's so much CGI touch-up on everything. These cars look like they came from a fucking video game. And not even a good one. I'd say this was like N64 PS1 era video games. These effects are so poorly blended. This is garbage. I've seen YouTube videos with people who have no budget that seem to have done a better job than this. And that is saying a lot. And then we get to the plot of this movie, which is just so bog standard. You've seen this before. I've made comparisons to the Expendables, but it's basically Expendables without the irony or the fourth wall breaking. It's played almost 100% straight. And it doesn't come off that way when they're using robotic CGI bees and pigeons to do some of their scouting later in this movie. And of course, those things are made out of CGI. They look like shit too. But honestly, the biggest negative in my opinion, which may not even be this movie's fault, but just how it comes off of, there is a very, very pro-patriotic China message inside of this movie. Like, there are times where this movie feels downright grimy. And I know that's a weird thing to say, especially when, don't all of our pro-American, military movies have that same effect? And yeah, but this one comes off a lot more grimy, especially with how China, this last year especially, has really shown their true colors and done some shit that is really, really bad. Also, I should probably mention that this film was made by Tencent, and if that name sounds familiar, especially for you gamers out there, you might remember that whole BlizzCon thing from last year, and it suddenly comes into mind why this doesn't feel very great. And honestly, it was kind of bugging me that, this stuff doesn't normally bug me as much. Why is it bugging me here from the filmmaking perspective? And it wasn't until I heard another reviewer talk about it that he put it into words that I couldn't. This basically feels like a Michael Bay action movie, and his type of rah-rah patriotism that is so blatantly stupid and pandering that it feels uncomfortable. But even with that said, I would say that Michael Bay films at the very least have better effects than this. So unfortunately, with all of that said, I have to give it a rating, and if I were to divorce it from all the political stuff and the griminess with Tencent and China and the pro-China messages, just looking at the film itself, quality-wise, What does it rate for me? I'd probably give it a wait for Netflix or Redbox. It's not some great masterpiece of action. I've seen a lot better action. Hell, I have a lot better action right there. I can recommend that a lot more than I can this. And while the effects aren't the absolute worst, I can say that they were so bad that they really detract from any kind of viewing of this movie, because it just pulls you out every time you see these CGI lions or CGI hyenas, or these sets that were clearly filmed outside but have so much CGI touch-up on them that it feels like they're playing in a video game, that it's hard to stay in the movie at any point. But there is enough there, especially with the charisma of Jackie Chan and some of the rapport from all of these other actors, that I can say that it is worth a watch if you saw it on Netflix or Redbox. However, if I were to throw that political stuff back into this, I can't recommend this movie at all. I don't want to support Tencent in any way, shape, or form, or at least in as few ways as possible. And I don't think you should either. So, my recommendation, quality of the movie, wait for Netflix, Redbox. With the political stuff, just skip it. It's not worth it. There are better things even in this dry year that you can go watch instead. And that's it for me. Have you enjoyed the video? Have you been unfortunate enough to see Vanguard? If you have, tell me what you thought about it in the comments down below. Let's get some healthy discussion going. And as always, if you like what you saw, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. All the stuff that YouTube tells us that we have to do to make our channels grow. And hopefully we can get a Jackie Chan film that's kind of divorced from all the political side and has a bit better production on it. Hell, I'd even say bring these filmmakers back on, just give them a better budget so they can fix their CGI. And of course, if you want to see more, I do stream on this channel every Thursday night, as well as stream pretty often these days on my Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/cardmaster9. And yeah, that's it for me, so I'll see you guys next time.